Wow, I've got so much to share with you folks on this one. Things are really starting to hop. So stick with me, folks, and we're going to talk about some missing documents and more, much, much more, including some flares in the sky. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and wow, it's just been one of those days. I'm trying to keep up with everything. So here we go. This is one of the videos that came out from the Justice Department today, and this is a nice little interview between Jaron Smith and AG Barr. Barr just kind of lays out some of the things that President Trump is implementing through an executive order that he put out, and it will help to strengthen the police department. And I think that if you have any liberal friends who say we need to fix the police department, you need to watch this, because there are some real programs they're implementing that I think will strengthen our police departments across the United States. And I think if you present this to most of the liberals out there who are saying defund the police, they actually would see this as something that they're interested in supporting. So I really was impressed with all the stuff that they are doing on this. And the real question is, why isn't AG Barr doing other stuff? No, I hope he is. I'm sure he is. And he can multitask, but he's got his plate full, I think, with a lot of other stuff right now. So, but I wanted to share this with you. This is a court case that just came down about Wisconsin. The Democrat National Committee sued Wisconsin State Legislature because they wanted to have the time extended for the ballots to come in. But the court said, a lower court said, yes, they would uphold that. And then another court said, no, they weren't going to. And the Supreme Court then ruled with that. And so they are not allowing that particular legislation to stay. So anyway, Gorsuch wrote this, and Kavanaugh wrote a separate opinion supporting it, of course, supporting the decision, that is. And I wanted to read just a little bit of Gorsuch, but if you want to read Kavanaugh's, he says similar things. I don't know why he felt he needed to do one separate, but he does focus on a few other things that are not in this particular one for Gorsuch. But Gorsuch says, weeks before a national election, a federal district judge decreed that Wisconsin law violates the Constitution by requiring absentee voters to return their ballots no later than Election Day. The court issued its ruling even though over 30 states have long enforced the very same absentee voting deadline, and for understandable reasons. By the way, notice that court here is a small c court. That means one of the lower courts, okay? When it's referring to the Supreme Court, it will have a capital C. Elections must end sometime. A single deadline supplies clear notice, and requiring ballots be in by Election Day puts all voters on the same footing. Common sense as well as constitutional law compels the conclusion that governments must play an active role in structuring elections, and states have always required voters to act in a timely fashion if they wish to express their views in the voting booth, okay, according to that particular case there. Why did the district court seek to scuttle such a long-settled tradition in this area? COVID. Because of the current pandemic, the court suggested it was free to substitute its own election deadline for the states. Never mind that, in response to the pandemic, the Wisconsin Elections Commission decided to mail registered voters an absentee ballot application and return envelope over the summer, so no one had to ask for one. Never mind that voters have been free to seek and return absentee ballots since September. Never mind that voters may return their ballots not only by mail, but also by bringing them to a county clerk's office or various no-touch drop boxes staged locally or certain polling places on Election Day. Never mind that those unable to vote on Election Day have still other options in Wisconsin, like voting in person during a 2-week voting period before Election Day. And never mind that the court itself found the pandemic posed an insufficient threat to the health and safety of voters to justify revamping the state's in-person election procedures. So it's indisputable that Wisconsin has made considerable efforts to accommodate early voting and respond to COVID. The district court's only possible complaint is that the state hasn't done enough. But how much is enough? If Wisconsin's statutory absentee voting deadline can be discarded on the strength of the state's status as a COVID hotspot, what about the identical deadlines in 30 other states? How much of a hot spot must a state, or maybe some sliver of it, be before judges get to improvise? Then there's the question what these new ad hoc deadlines should be. The judge in this case tacked 6 days onto the state's election deadline. But what about 3 or 7 or 10? And what's to stop different judges choosing, as they surely would, different deadlines in different jurisdictions? A widely shared state policy seeking to make Election Day real would give way to a babel of decrees. And what's to stop courts from tinkering with in-person voting rules, too? This judge declined to go that far, but the plaintiffs thought he should have. And it's not hard to imagine other judges accepting invitations to unfurl the precinct maps and decide whether states should add polling places, revise their hours, or rearrange the voting booths within them, and maybe even supplement existing social distancing, hand washing, and ventilation protocols. The Constitution dictates a different approach to these how much is enough questions. The Constitution provides that state legislatures, not federal judges, not state judges, not state governors, not other state officials, bear primary responsibility for setting election rules. And the Constitution provides a second layer of protection too. If state rules need revision, Congress is free to alter them. Nothing in our founding document contemplates the kind of judicial intervention that took place here, nor is there precedent for it in 230 years of this court's decision. See, this court is capitalized, so that would be Supreme Court. Understandably so, legislators can be held accountable by the people for the rules they write or fail to write. Typically, judges cannot. Legislatures make policy and bring to bear the collective wisdom of the whole people when they do, while courts dispense the judgment of only a single person or a handful. Legislatures enjoy far greater resources for research and fact-finding on questions of science and safety than usually can be mustered in litigation between discrete parties before a single judge. In reaching their decisions, legislators must compromise to achieve the broad social consensus necessary to enact new laws, something not easily replicated in courtrooms where typically one side must win and the other lose. Of course, democratic processes can prove frustrating because they cannot easily act without a broad social consensus. Legislatures are often slow to respond and tepid when they do. The clamor for judges to sweep in and address emergent problems and the temptation for individual judges to fill the void of perceived inaction can be great. But what sometimes seems like a fault in the constitutional design was a feature to the framers, a means of ensuring that any changes to the status quo will not be made hastily, without careful deliberation, extensive consultation, and social consensus. I thought he just did a good job putting that together and putting it in perspective. And this really addresses the heart of it, because the dissent opinion, which is later on, is that it will disenfranchise people because they won't be able to vote. Well, Kavanaugh points out something in his where he says, yeah, the problem is we're not disenfranchising people because we, have a definite deadline for when the actual ballots need to get in. That's not disenfranchising anyone. That puts everyone on the same footing. Everyone has the same ability to be able to get their ballot in. And if they really care about it, they're going to get their ballot in on time. And he used like tax day as an example. He said, you know, if you moved tax day from April 15th to April 21st, people would still be filing taxes during that time because there's going to be people who put things off to the last minute. And so if it's moved, instead of doing their taxes on April 14th, they're going to be doing them on April 20th. So, you know, that's the whole thing about it. And it is true. So no matter when you have a cutoff, there's still going to be some people who wait around and don't get it done. And then, you know, oh, well, I didn't make it in time. He also compared it to like if the polls close at 6 o'clock and you show up at midnight and expect them to count your vote. It's like, well, sorry, you missed the deadline. So, you know, I think it's very reasonable and it doesn't disenfranchise anyone if you have an actual deadline and you stick to it. I think it's probably a very good thing with this. And, you know, it disturbs me to see just how much the Democrats are willing to go after things like this just to try to get them set. Now, obviously, we've not won them all. There have been some that the Democrats have won. Like, there was one with the signatures that they didn't have to match, and it's like, hello? I think that was in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure I understand why that is, but I'll leave this down below in case you want to read this whole thing. Roberts did concur here. It doesn't mention anything. I mean, it mentions Roberts, it mentions Kavanaugh and Gorsuch, and then it has on the dissenting Kagan and Sotomayor and Breyer. But it says nothing about Alito on here. Did I miss somebody? I don't remember. Anyway, so I will leave this down below if you want to read the whole thing. I thought it was kind of interesting. And especially I thought both Kavanaugh and Gorsuch do a good job putting it in common terms, you know, so you can read it. And I really find that very valuable. When they get to be too wordy and too judgy on it, it makes it really hard when they're speaking legalese all the time. I mean, of course, they have to refer to cases and stuff, but anyway, so I did want to share that with you because I thought he did a good job pointing it out and really exposing what the Democrats are trying to do. They're just making claims and they are speculating. They're saying, well, if you have a deadline, then X amount of people will probably not be able to meet that deadline. So you're disenfranchising them. And it's like, that's pure speculation. That has nothing to do with reality. You have no data to back that up. You don't know. You're just guessing. You're just making it up. So anyway, that's kind of how Democrats do when they want to have evidence of something, they just make it up. When we have real evidence of something, they tell us that it's not real. I did listen to the hearings today. I'm sorry I didn't put this in here. The hearing on the Section 230 thing. I just about threw things at my TV while I was watching. So, yeah, I was not real happy with them. Cruz was good, and then Rick Scott and who else? Lee was pretty good. Mike Lee. I thought there was somebody else. Oh, Blackburn. Marsha Blackburn was pretty good. But really, I felt like the Republicans were not really grasping the whole problem with it. And they allowed the Democrats to over and over say that President Trump, the reason that his tweets were, censored in some way, like they put a thing over it or whatever the case was, it was censored in some fashion, fact-checked, whatever you want to call it. And they allowed the Democrats to keep saying that those things were not true. And that's why they were fact. And I wish somebody would have stood up and said, no, those things were true. And the real problem comes down to not whether you're fact-checking or whatever, but it comes down to you are claiming things are false when you just don't like what they're saying. And that's what it really is. Because There was, I think maybe Cruz was the one that pointed out that, yeah, their fact checkers are all liberals.
I think first off, if you follow all this today, what you'll clearly come to the conclusion is Republicans believe that you censor and Democrats think it's pretty good what you're doing. We're blessed to live in the United States, a democracy where we are granted individual freedoms and liberties under the Constitution. This isn't the case around the world. We can look at what's happening in Communist China right now. General Secretary Xi is committing horrible human rights abuses against China's minority communities and censoring anyone that speaks out about their oppression. The Chinese Communist Party surveils their citizens and uses state-run media to push their propaganda, control information their citizens consume, and hide their human rights abuses. Twitter and Facebook are banned in Communist China. So you can understand why it's concerning that we're even discussing this issue that big technology companies are interfering with free speech. The American people entrust your companies with their information. They believe that you will protect their information and allow them to use your platforms to express themselves freely. I don't think any one person has signed up for any of your platforms and expects to be blocked or kicked off because of their political views. But it's becoming obvious that your companies are unfairly targeting conservatives. That's clearly the perception today. Facebook is actively targeting ads by conservative groups ahead of the election, either removing the ads completely or adding their own disclosure if they claim it didn't pass their fact check system. But their fact check is based on reports from known liberal media groups like PolitiFact, which clearly is a liberal media group.
And that needed to be pointed out several times. I wish the Republicans kind of would have come together and met and hit the same points over and over again, because that was really what needed to be done. But yeah, Cruz, man, he eviscerated him. It was great. It was really good to see.
Does Twitter have the ability to influence elections?
No.
You don't believe Twitter has any ability to influence elections?
No, we are one part of a spectrum of communication channels that people have.
So you're testifying to this committee right now that Twitter, when it silences people, when it censors people, when it blocks political speech, that has no impact on elections?
People have choice of other communication channels with which...
Not if they don't hear information. If you don't think you have the power to influence elections, why do you block anything? So, Mr. Dorsey, your ability is you have the power to force a media outlet. Let's be clear. The New York Post isn't just some random guy tweeting. The New York Post has the fourth highest circulation of any newspaper in America. The New York Post is over 200 years old. The New York Post was founded by Alexander Hamilton. And your position is that you can sit in Silicon Valley and demand of the media that you can tell them what stories they can publish and you can tell the American people what reporting they can hear. Is that right?
No, this was every person, every account, every organization that signs up to Twitter agrees to a terms of service. Terms of service is
so media outlets must genuflect and obey your dictates if they wish to be able to communicate with readers. Is that right?
Anyone can tweet.
So Twitter takes the view you can censor the New York Post, you can censor Politico, presumably you can censor the New York Times or any other media outlet. Mr. Dorsey, who the hell elected you and put you in charge of what the media are allowed to report and what the American people are allowed to hear? And why do you persist in behaving as a Democratic super PAC, silencing views to the contrary of your political beliefs?
Well, we're not doing that. And this is why I opened this hearing with calls for more transparency. We realize we need to earn trust more. We realize that more accountability is needed to show our intentions and to show the outcomes.
Thank you,
so
Senator.
I hear the concerns and acknowledge them, but we want to fix it with more transparency.
So anyway, I'll leave this one down below for you. And then this has come out now that Ashley Biden's diary is there. It's 112 pages and yeah, something to read. She is Joe Biden's stepdaughter, I believe. Is that it? So I haven't had a chance yet to do that. but I think it's probably something we need to go through. I'll leave the link for you. Well, I thought this was kind of interesting that there were multiple U.S. hospitals that have been hit with a coordinated cyber attack only days before the election. So that's something that could be very interesting. I'm not sure what it means, but it's, when they have them all coordinated, there's something going on. Why would they hit that? So, and this person says, does this mean we're finally going to get the actual COVID numbers? That would be really nice. And here's one from Bloomberg, so you can look at that and see it. But anyway, I'll leave the link to this down below for you. Then this was kind of eye-opening. Flint City Council member Maurice Davis, who has always voted Democrat, is supporting President Trump. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. These, by the way, I didn't get time to organize them. I'm just doing them as they go. This one, though, is very important because Tucker says that something happened here.
Them. My executive producer, Justin Wells, and I were in Los Angeles preparing to interview Tony Bobolinsky about the Biden's business dealings in China, Ukraine, and other countries. So we texted a producer in New York and we asked him to send those documents to us in LA, and he did that. So Monday afternoon of this week, he shipped those documents overnight to California with a large national carrier, a brand name company that we've used, you've used countless times with never a single problem. But the Biden documents never arrived in Los Angeles. Tuesday morning, we received word from the shipping company that our package had been opened and the contents were missing. The documents had disappeared. Now, to its credit, the company took this very seriously and immediately began a search. They traced the envelope from the moment our producers dropped it off in Manhattan on Monday all the way to 3:44 a.m. yesterday morning. That's when an employee at a sorting facility in another state noticed that our package was open and empty. Apparently, it had been opened. So the company's security team interviewed every one of its employees who touched the envelope we sent. They searched the plane and the trucks that carried it. They went through the office in New York where our producer dropped that package off. They combed the entire cavernous sorting facility. They used pictures of what we had sent so that searchers would know what to look for. They went far and beyond, but they found nothing. Those documents have vanished. As of tonight, the company has no idea and no working theory even about what happened to this trove of materials, documents that are directly relevant to the presidential campaign just 6 days from now. We spoke to executives at that company a few hours ago. They seemed baffled and deeply bothered by this, and so are we.
Yep, I think that's something to be worried about, don't you think? So, I just think this is an issue. And here it is again. It's actually on this website right here on this page from Gateway Pundit because they were talking about it. Okay, so that's their situation there with Tucker. Well, Tucker's connected also with the Daily Caller, and he used to work for that. And so Richie here is from the Daily Caller. He's the chief video director. And he says, I just acquired a copy of the Hunter Biden hard drive from Rudy Giuliani, and I am bringing it back to Daily Caller for analysis. In unrelated news, I love life and have no plans to die anytime soon. And so he has it right there. Now notice there's like a speck or something in his eye. Well, down here, people were commenting on it so much that down here he says, guys, I swear my right eyeball is good. Totally promise I'm not a cyborg. So, you know how it goes. People won't mention anything. So, I just thought that was a little bit of humor. But yeah, it'd be kind of scary. You'd be a target, I guess. You got to wonder what happened to Tucker's stuff. Yeah, somebody got it. And this was interesting. When you Google Hunter Biden, the Biden campaign is paying to promote a New York Times article defending Biden. As expected, one team, one fight. And if you look here, see, it says it is an ad and a New York Times article paid for by Biden for President. There you go. Oh, I tell you. When I was watching that hearing today, it was like an alternate reality because the Democrats just kept denying that first of all, that there's any censorship of conservatives on social media. And that just, ticked me off because it's like, hello, poster child for it here. Well, I'm not exactly the poster child, but I've been censored a bit, So I do know that it's happening. And I know a lot of people that it's happened to, especially how many were just purged. Yeah. We know it's happening. And there's been 700? No, it was 7,000, wasn't it, that they purged from Twitter at one time. And then, of course, there's Facebook, and then there's Patreon, which again, I have said before, but I just want you to understand, especially if you are one of my patrons on Patreon deplatformed me. Okay. I can't even log in to the Patreon site. It has suspended my account. So, it's like I can't even go in. So I can't see anybody's names. I can't send you a message or anything like that. So, yeah, that's happening. And I know PayPal has been deplatforming a few people. They haven't me yet, but it's amazing. Polly, I know they did. Well, so I log into Twitter, and this is the first thing that comes up. It's like, really? Really? So election results might be delayed. See, they had planned this from the start. They want you to get in that mindset that we will not know on November 3rd. Even though people have been putting in all these ballots ahead of time and been voting, we still won't know. Just set your mind to it. And it's working on our minds. We should know who the president is. And they already, in that hearing today with the 230 guys, the tech guys, they were asking them and saying, the Democrats kept asking if they had something in place so that no one can claim that they've won, on November 3rd.
President Trump and the Republicans have a plan which involves disinformation and misinformation. The Russians have a plan. I want to know whether you have a plan, Facebook, Twitter, Google, a plan, if the president uses your platforms to say on the day of the election that there is rigging or fraud without any basis in evidence, or attempts to say that the election is over and the counting of votes must stop either on November 4th or some day subsequent. And I would like, as to this question about whether you have a plan, a yes or no.
Senator, I can start. We do. We have policies related to all of the areas that you just mentioned. Candidates or campaigns trying to delegitimize methods of voting or the election, candidates trying to prematurely declare victory, and candidates trying to spread voter suppression material that is misleading about how, when, or where to vote. So we've taken a number of steps on that front.
Perhaps we could take Mr. Buckeye next and then Mr. Dorsey. Mr. Buckeye.
Senator, yes, we definitely are we've been planning for a while, and we rely on raising up news sources through moments like that, as well as we've closely partnered with the Associated Press to make sure we can provide users the most accurate information possible.
And yes, we also have a plan. So, our plan and our enforcement around these issues is pointing to more information, and specifically state election officials. So we want to give the people using the service as much information as possible.
Do you really think there are so many lazy people out there that they can't get their butts around and get their ballots in by November 3rd? Do you think so? Do you think that many ballots are really going to sway it? I don't know. I'm praying that it's going to be such a huge blowout that, yeah. Oh, what's this? That's interesting. I'm going to have to look at that one later. I don't think they're beating us in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, look at this. This is incredible set of pictures. Okay, this was a Trump rally in Phoenix in 2016. See, there's some empty seats and everything, but this was the rally. And then here was the rally in Phoenix 2020. I mean, tell me this man is behind in the polls. No way. Just no way. I'm sorry. I can't believe that. 2016 he won. And look at the crowd that he had. 2020, this is his crowd. And you're telling me he's not going to win? Nope, sorry, not believing it for one bit. Well, essentially in the hearing today, another thing that came up was about the New York Post. The New York Post still cannot post from their Twitter feed. They are still suspended. And when questioned about that, Jack Dorsey said, well, all they have to do is delete the tweet and then they can come back and they can repost it. He said they could repost the same link now that, they've cleared the links or whatever. They can't unsuspend their account until they delete that tweet. Okay, that's a big bunch of hooey, in my opinion. That's ridiculous, and that's what they were trying to get him to say. But essentially, that's it. And that is a type of blackmail operation. You cooperate with us, or we're just going to suspend your account. You do what we tell you to. You bow to us, and then we'll reactivate your account. And I've seen it happen to so many different people. It's been happening to James Woods many, many times. And the last time it happened, he actually did delete the tweet, because I think it was the New York Post article. And then he took a screenshot of it and then tweeted that with the screenshot. And, this is a type of blackmail. And for the Democrats to sit there and to say that, there was no conservative censorship, that is a myth, that is a conspiracy theory, it's not real. And one of them asked him, I think maybe Mike Lee or somebody, said, name one high-profile Democrat that you have censored in any way, shape, or form. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it because it's not true. Now, they have actually censored a few lower-level Democrat things, just so that they could say that they had done some censorship on both sides, but they only did it for show. They didn't do anybody big, nobody big, but they've been hitting big people like crazy on the conservative side, and we all know it. We know it. Yet the Democrats are still sitting there denying it all. It was like Leslie Stahl the other night, on 60 Minutes. It's like, well, there's no evidence of that. Yes, there is. Hello, have you been paying attention? They just are living in another reality and denying it all. Well, this was a question I just wanted to, put this up here because he says moments ago I asked AG Barr why he hasn't looked at Hunter Biden's laptop at Trump DC and got no answer. The Republic is at stake and he's given the Biden crime family a pass. Okay, I don't know that that's the reason, okay? Remember, the Department of Justice cannot talk about ongoing investigations. So it's very possible that the reason he got no answer was because of that. I don't know for sure. I do believe that it's all going to come out. I mean, it's out there. People see it. The New American here has this about huge lawsuits coming against COVID totalitarians and con artists. So that should be interesting. So they're going to hold some of these people to account. Totalitarians and con artists who hyped and exploited the coronavirus panic to steal freedom and destroy livelihoods are in the crosshairs, facing the wrath of a team of high-profile international lawyers and doctors determined to seek justice. So I hope that really happens. I definitely do. Anyway, I'll leave the link to this down below so you can read about them. As always, let's go on. I've got a few more to share with you here. This one, Trump draws thousands to campaign rallies in Arizona. Kamalalala draws approximately 100. I can't believe that the polls are anywhere near accurate. This is crazy. You can't have them having 100 people and Trump has tens of thousands, and then you say, oh yeah, but he's behind in the polls. It's laughable. Anybody with a brain can tell that's not true. So who wants to go see Kamalalala? Only 100 people. Yeah, sad, isn't it? This, I'm not going to play this one, but I'll leave it so you can watch it. Okay, so there's this Chinese dissident group, people that want to overthrow their communist government in China. Okay, they're the ones who have released a lot of these things that have been going out. They said the reason they're doing this is because the communist government, through, cell phones and everything else, have been able to collect all of this dirt on a lot of big name people. All right. And this is one of the reasons why, there was the push to get rid of Huawei stuff, because that was one of the venues they were using to get all this info. So they are now saying they claim to have dirt on former British Prime Minister David Cameron, his family, and current Prime Minister Boris Johnson. So are they going to leak them? Well, I don't know, but that's what they claim, that they have all of the stuff that the Chinese government has collected, which is 3 hard drives. And so we're going to see what happens here, if they will be releasing some stuff on there. But, when you start looking at it in this perspective, and you see that it's not just blackmail stuff on some people in the United States, but it's also other countries, because this was China's plan, according to these guys. China's plan was to get all this information, and then they could, pretty much run the world, because if they have blackmail dirt on everybody, everybody's got to dance to whatever they tell them to dance to. That's the way it works. So, you can watch this and you can see this one is in Chinese, and has the titles down here that you're going to have to watch. So, it could be interesting. And when you start thinking of it in those terms, it really does change things. Okay, well, the Girl Scouts put out a post earlier, a tweet, and they got reamed for it. So earlier today, we shared a post highlighting the 5 women who have been appointed to the Supreme Court. I would think that'd be something really good, role models for these young women, to see that you can be successful as a Supreme Court justice as a woman. I think that's wonderful. But it was quickly viewed as a political and partisan statement, which was not our intent, and we have removed the post. Now, I don't have the original post. Sorry about that. I, didn't get that. But I just think it's so sad that they got reamed for this. And they should be posting about women who have achieved so much. And to make it to the Supreme Court, very few women have ever done that. Well, 5 have ever done that. And I think that spotlighting them, and saying this is what they've accomplished, I don't think that's necessarily partisan. But then again, I didn't read their original post. But I do think that that's perfectly appropriate for a group called Girl Scouts. Down here it says, Girl Scouts of the USA is a non-political, non-partisan organization. We are neither red nor blue, but Girl Scout green. So we're here to lift up girls and women. See, I'm not defending the Girl Scouts, by the way. I'm just saying that the idea of a group that's girls, and promoting women and positive views of women and what they can accomplish is a good thing, okay? So whether they do other stuff, which according to Live Action here that they do, so that might be an article you want to read on that. But I just think that we're getting so political on so many things, and we read so much into it. It's ridiculous. Well, yeah, Emmett Sullivan's at it again, and he still hasn't dismissed the Flynn case. But guess what? Now, no, he's messing with the U.S. Postmaster General. So this guy has like delusions of godhood, I think. And so we all know the situation with Flynn. I don't have to go over that with you. And that he's still, this is Sidney Powell's summary, and as she tied things up when they were talking about it. But down here it says, this is according to Politico, a federal judge on Tuesday night ordered the U.S. Postal Service to reverse limitations on mail collection imposed by Trump-backed Postmaster General Louis DeJoy, giving the agency until Wednesday morning to inform workers of the court's changes as more mail-in ballots continue to flood in. In a highly detailed order, Judge Emmett Sullivan of the District Court for the District of Columbia granted an emergency motion by plaintiffs against President Donald Trump to enforce and monitor compliance with Sullivan's previous injunction tied to U.S. Postal Services. This guy, he has really overstepped his bounds, and I do think that he is going to be in big trouble after Trump is reelected. Okay? So I'll leave the article. You can read the whole thing, but, you can see it's just craziness out of this man. Well, speaking of Flynn, I don't know if you noticed, but he did do a tweet the other day, today, I guess it was the 27th at 6:08 a.m. And he says, this is a reminder that God's hand is on America. Born or naturalized an American, we have inherited an amazing land of liberty and prosperity. Keeping America a constitutional republic is now up to grassroots Americans. Vote for America, for freedom, and for patriotism. And just reminding you that very first post 3 years ago was at 4:44 a.m. or 4:44 p.m. Sorry, because it was 1600. So, yeah, just thought I'd point that out to you. Thought you'd want to see that. So, yeah. So we'll see what happens. I would love for that to be happening, but we'll see. Right? Anyway, this is something that happened, and I noticed during the speech, I watched this one. It's hard watching them all because there's so many of them anymore, but I did watch this one, and I noticed that they had these, like, jets or something, and there were a bunch of booms and stuff, noises, and Trump made a point of it. But it says here, this was a statement from the North American Aerospace Defense Command. North American Aerospace Defense Command directed F-16 aircraft to investigate a general aviation aircraft that was not in communication with air traffic control and entered the temporary flight restriction area, the Trump rally, surrounding Bullhead City, Arizona, without proper clearance. The violating aircraft was non-responsive to initial intercept procedures, but established radio communications after NORAD aircraft deployed signal flares. The violating aircraft was escorted out of the restricted area by the NORAD aircraft without further incident. Secret Service agents ran toward the president as the event unfolded, but ultimately did not go on stage. Officials did not say if the pilot intended to cause the president harm. The incident was partially captured on video. So here it is.
Oh, look at that. Look. Oh, look at that. They gave the president a little display. Whoa. Wow. How about that? How about that? I wonder if the fake news caught that. Did you see that camera? Because they never turn the camera. They don't want to show anything that's good.
And you could hear them and everything. You could hear the booms. I wondered at the time what it was because I thought there's not supposed to be anybody in the airspace when the president's there. I mean, that should be restricted airspace. So I'm kind of glad to find this article because I wanted to know what happened. And so I guess that was it. You know, pray for this man all the time. I don't know if any of you, if you are older, you may remember this, but there was a Charlton Heston, Sophia Loren movie called El Cid. And it's set in like Spain and around the time of 1000. And it has this character, this main character, who is a big warrior, and his name is El Cid. And at the end, I don't want to spoil it for you, but sorry, I'm going to. Spoiler! At the end, they have this great big battle against the Moors who were trying to take over Spain. And he is wounded in battle. And he tells them, he says, no matter what, I have to be out there. I have to lead my troops in the morning. No matter what, promise me that I will. He dies, and they put him on the horse, and he rides out. And all the Moors had been saying, oh, he's dead. He's, we're going to beat him because, he's dead. And then he rides out there. And there's actually one of the memes that the guys on the research board have come up with has that a figure. It's actually the picture of El Cid, and it's like, please, no, don't use that because he's dead. But yeah, and he rides out, and they win the battle because he was leading them, even though he was already dead. So it's like, no, don't do that. We need him. That was something I was a little worried about with the COVID because I trusted that he had some good doctors, but I was worried that it would take him out for several days or a couple weeks. And, that would have been bad timing, but I think that's what they intended. But it didn't work because we have a great POTUS. And so just keep him in your prayers, guys, because there are forces that want to stop him any way possible. Well, just to let you know that Twitch has banned all protest and riot streams and coverage. And so evidently when things happen after the election, the revolution will not be live streamed, at least not on Twitch. So I just thought that was interesting. There's their little statement. So if you are a Twitch person, there you go. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Maybe there will be a media blackout. Wouldn't that be something? The day after the election, everything blacks out. And then this one I've had for a couple days I wanted to share with you. Even though it says October 28th, I had a different article, I guess, because I've known about this for a couple days. This Expensify is a company, and the CEO sent out like a message to all of his customers and said either vote for Biden or you're going to face possible civil war. Well, his clients were none too happy about that, of course, because, that's not what you want when you have a company that you're working with. You don't want them telling you how to vote. And so essentially, here's what it says. Expensify depends on a functioning society and economy. Not many expense reports get filed during a civil war. As CEO of this business, it's my job to plot a course through any storm, and all evidence suggests that another 4, or as Trump has hinted, 8 or more. They can't take a joke. It's a joke, guys. He does it on purpose to troll you. Years of Trump leadership will damage our democracy to such an extent I'm obligated on behalf of shareholders to take any action I can to avoid it. I am confident our democracy and Expensify can survive a Biden presidency. Really? You think so? We're going to be owned by China if Biden gets in. I can't say the same about Trump. It's truly as simple as that. They are just Trump derangement syndrome is strong. So anyway, I'll leave this if you want to read the whole thing, because then there's some down here that shows a Rothschild, by the way, who said they weren't happy with it because they didn't like, the guy says he didn't like him politicizing it and didn't think that that was appropriate. And then this one, again, they're like, The email from the CEO of Expensify to their customer database is completely inappropriate, irrespective of your political views. Total spam. We use them. Alternatives? So they're going to lose customers over it. It was stupid. It was stupid. So, but that's what the people on the left think that they have the right to do. So, anyway. Well, folks, I should have gotten a Patriot channel up, but I just forgot. So, I'm tired and I'm going to get this edited and get to bed. Because my big plan for tomorrow is to vote. Okay? So, I hope when you're watching this maybe that I will be voting. I hope. I don't know how long I'm going to have to stand in line, but last time I went past there was quite a line. I hope I can do it. We'll see what happens, right? I wish I could take, like, a chair and sit on it, and then I could take my crocheting with me. Oh, well. Anyway. Oh, I got to tell you this. I went to my chiropractor today, and while I was there, there's like a couple of people that have, I've known them. I've seen them a lot. When I go to the chiropractor, they're often there because my chiropractor doesn't have appointments. You just he has hours and you go in those hours. And so you see similar people like all the time. You see the same people because they're usually there at the same times. So there's this one couple that I've seen for, years since I've been going there. And we got to talking before about everything that's going on in the world and everything. And they've been trying to follow a lot of things that are going on. So I've told you that I have an Epoch Times subscription. And with it, you get a regular newspaper. It's a pretty good-sized newspaper. You get several sections in it and everything. And so it seems like every time I go there, I find people that want to talk to me about what's happening, and I end up giving them my newspaper because that's usually when I read my newspaper. So, I have the online version, which is nice, and I have it on my cell phone now too. So I usually read the cell, and when the paper comes, I just kind of go through and look for stuff I haven't seen yet. There's usually not very much of it at that point. But anyway, so the first time, a few weeks ago, I gave him my newspaper. Well, then there was this other man who kind of joined in with our conversation. And so the next time I gave him the newspaper. So today I'm sitting there and after we were discussing things, and then, they went in to get their adjustments, and I was sitting there by myself waiting for mine. And this Amish guy who had been kind of listening to our conversation comes over and sits next to me and goes, I want to know more about what's going on. And so I started telling the Amish guy what's going on, especially with the laptop and everything. And, I'm sitting there not reading my newspaper one more time. And so I said, okay, I'll tell you what, here, take my newspaper. So Epoch Times, I have given away so many of your newspapers. You better be getting some subscriptions from it. So can you give me credit? It'd be nice. No, I don't get anything from them. I just happen to think that they do a very good job with their reporting, and I really like having the newspaper and everything. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because there are a lot of people that have been surprising me. And, when they start hearing you talk, and if you're knowledgeable about what's going on, they have no hesitation asking you questions. More and more people are waking up, but they don't know all the stuff that's come along up to this point. And so I encourage you that when you're talking to people in your daily life, see if there aren't some that you can help guide them and push them a little further on the path so that they will wake up and they'll start to see what's really happening. Because, when you start to get on some of the stuff that's on the Hunter Biden laptop, it's going to bring us together because that kind of stuff, there's still so many good and decent people in the United States that no matter what their politics are, when they see that kind of stuff or when they hear about that kind of stuff, I think they're going to rally around the truth because, people still care about children. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.